These 4 tools helped me speed up my productivity and sell my language learning company last summer. In this video, I'll break down each app and show you how they can help you improve your business operations and productivity, regardless of whether you've got a side hustle, you're a freelancer, or you've got a small business. Please hit subscribe. I'll be posting videos weekly on small business, productivity, and finance. Let's dive in. Now, it's fair to say I'm pretty obsessed with processes and systems because I really feel that they underpin how efficiently you carry out your tasks, and they help you to get a snapshot of how well you're doing, how well your business is doing. My love for systems started when I read E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber and The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Now, I probably reread these books 5 or 6 times over, underlining and highlighting the sections that really apply to me. E-Myth Revisited explains why a whopping 80% of small businesses fail and how to ensure yours isn't one of those by building a company that's based on systems and not on the work of a single individual. The author explains how running a business and getting the technical work done are 2 different things and shows you how you can set up a company that depends more on systems rather than on people, and with the right training and instructions can be operated by anybody. Now, that's where I started using the phrase turnkey operation, because I knew that the apps I used would be a fundamental part of how successful I was and how much profit my business would generate. And, ever since then, I'm continuously optimizing the tools that I use to incrementally improve my actions, especially the repetitive ones, because even a 5% improvement in how I leverage these apps will compound every month and save me hundreds of hours in the long term. So let's have a look at app number 1, Xero. Xero is a cloud-based accounting software that's designed to help small businesses and freelancers manage their finances more efficiently. Your business hinges on your numbers. And, if you don't know your P&L, your gross profit, your average spend per user, you're not going to be able to make informed decisions about your company, how much money to spend on acquiring customers, or how well you're doing. And now having a grasp of your numbers means you can immediately access all of your stats and see a snapshot of how healthy your business is. So the things I love about Xero: the user-friendly interface. It actually looks like a really nicely designed tool. Some of the competitors can look a little bit dull and clunky, but with Xero, as I'm logging in at least a few times a day, I want it to look good and to be able to navigate easily around it. The platform itself is great to use. I've downloaded that app where I can do basic tasks like sending invoices and reconciling payments when I'm on the go and I haven't got my laptop. Real-time reporting. Xero provides real-time reporting, which allows you to quickly see your financial position, cash flow, and other key metrics. Now, depending on the size of your business, you could have hundreds of transactions a week, and having updated figures to hand that you can see on your dashboard means you can check the health of your business in real time as it happens. Now, Xero does this by connecting with your bank and feeding all the transactions through, which you then reconcile, i.e. match up the amount that was debited or credited from your account. The next thing I love about Xero is the automation. Now, in my previous business, I had hundreds of reconciliations a month, and it really automated the majority of these transactions for me. This was the area I saved the most time on because its AI identifies recurring transactions, so I don't need to keep entering the who, the company, or the what, the category. Let's take my monthly co-working space fee. It recognizes the company name, the amount, and the transaction date. It knows this because the first time I reconcile this transaction, I told Xero that this company name and this amount on this date belongs to the rent category, which in Xero is code 469. What that means is that when I reconcile the transaction the following month, it's already pulled up this suggestion, and all I need to do is press one button and the transaction is reconciled. You can also automate other repetitive tasks such as invoicing and payment reminders, saving you time and reducing errors you might make manually. And, I really think it makes you look more professional because for example, let's take my previous company. I had to invoice organizations like Sky, Amazon, Disney, and you want to make sure you have robust systems in place so they know that they're dealing with a professional company. And if a client is late in paying, Xero takes the hassle out of chasing this up, and it sends a reminder. Another feature I love is that I can upload all of my receipts. Now, before I started using it, I kept all of my receipts, it was really old school, in monthly envelopes, but it took up too much space. And now all I need to do is go into the app, select the transaction that relates to the receipt, take a photo and upload it so that my accountant can then see what the amount relates to. For UK businesses, it's best practice to keep your receipts for 6 years in case HMRC ask you for evidence. And, you want to put as many expenses as you can legally put through to reduce the tax you pay on your profits. Now, at a more broader level, I realized the power of knowing your figures when I decided to niche my previous language learning company and focus on just one demographic. Now, this was a really complex process as we had to change our pricing models, marketing messages, templates, and so on. And I made the decision after analysing all the data about the different segments we were serving at that time. And if it wasn't for pulling up the reports on the average spend per user, average spend per transaction, or the net margins, I wouldn't have been able to make such decisions. And sometimes in business, you think that something is working and you're doing pretty well, but the numbers tell it like it is. And if something isn't as profitable as it could be, or if your margins are tighter than you thought, then the data will tell you. And yet, when I eventually came to sell my business, I could pull out all the reports and everything was to hand. And that saved me a ton of time in the due diligence process. Okay, so another thing that made me consider Xero was how many apps it integrates with. There's a long list of integrations if you have a look at their website. So for payment gateways, it works with Stripe, Go Cardless, and PayPal. And for CRM, it works with applications like HubSpot and Capsule. This is something you need to consider from the outset. Whenever you think about integrating new apps into your business, you've got to know that it will speak to the other apps you're using so that information is transferred seamlessly into your, what I like to call, the business ecosystem. The last plus point I want to mention is that you can collaborate with other team members in Xero. So I've got 2 users that are added to my account. One is my accountant and the other is my bookkeeper. I love this feature because they've got access to all of the data and I don't need to send it to them like I did in the past with zipped files or Dropbox links. Also, if there's a transaction that I have a query on, I can tag a user to help me with it, which saves me time on taking screenshots and sending emails. So overall, Xero is great for one person and small people businesses as it streamlines your financial processes, automates the repetitive tasks, and it's at a really affordable price point with no tie-in contracts. Next up is Clickup. If you don't already know, Clickup is a cloud-based collaborative project management tool that claims to be the app to replace all other apps. Now, this includes things like tasks, projects, docs, goals, calendar, literally everything. It's got a lot of competitors, and I'd probably say the main ones are Monday.com, Trello, Asana, Notion. So the day-to-day running of my business is on Clickup. This is where I have a centralized workspace for my private projects, but also I've got shared areas where team members can collaborate and communicate so we know where we're all at. The features that make a day-to-day difference for me are things such as time tracking. I use it for focused work when I want to plan a project and break it down into smaller bite-sized tasks. Using the tracker means that I can time myself doing these tasks and keep track of how long something takes me. Now, I know that there's other ways like the Pomodoro technique, and I've used that before, but I find that this method is really working for me right now because it helps me to see the time attached to that task so I can look back and see how productive I'm being. And I can also change the view, so I can do it in a calendar view or a board, which I do for some spaces like my social media because that's more visual. And even though Clickup is meant to replace all apps, it syncs really well with everything you're most likely currently using, such as Google, Slack, Trello. So, you don't need to keep on switching tools or tabs, which when you're running a business, you're likely to have many open. And I personally prefer to keep my workspace a bit more streamlined. And the other day I was actually working on a long text document, but later I decided that I didn't want the document to flow that way. So I looked up the version history and restored it. So it's little features like that which save me time. Now, I'm honestly impressed by the sheer volume of the things the app can do. And even though I haven't stopped using things like Google Workspace or my iPhone notes, this is the app I'm constantly on as my business is built on tasks and projects. Also, it's at an affordable price point. I pay around £9 a month and it comes with great customer support. What I would say is that there is a little bit of a steep learning curve to begin with, but stick with it because I think it's worth it. Okay, so next up is tool number 3, Upwork. Upwork is a popular marketplace platform that connects businesses with freelancers from all over the world. When you've got your own company, it's time efficient to leverage experts, even if it feels like there's quite a bit of an outlay. As in my experience, it can save you time and you can focus your energy on areas and things that you excel in, such as strategy. Upwork allows businesses to hire freelancers on a project basis, which means that they can easily scale up or scale down their workforce as needed. Let's run through the features and benefits. So you've got global access to a wide pool of talented freelancers with a huge range of skills and expertise, offering their services at different price points. So if you have a look at a freelancer, you'll be able to see their skill sets, fees, reviews, experience, and projects that they've worked on. You can either search for and message freelancers directly or post a job and have them pitch to you. Now, I usually message directly as sometimes I've posted jobs in the past and they've yielded hundreds of applications, which is a lot to sift through. From a platform perspective, you've got an area where you can schedule voice and video calls. You can add notes and files to your private notepad, add collaborators and work as a team, and see contractor timesheets. The platform has everything you need, including taking payments and producing invoices. Now, the thing about marketplaces is that both the seller and the buyer, they care about their reviews and online reputation. So in my experience, at least, the quality has been good, which is why it's great for smaller businesses without having to employ, permanent staff, which involves a lot more HR and compliance. Of course, you've got your payment platform processing fees for Upwork. So clients pay 5% and freelancers pay 10%, which you'll want to factor into your budget. So I tend to use Upwork for technical projects like web development and SEO. And then I tend to head towards Fiverr for more creative things like editing and design. You can upgrade to Fiverr Business, which is more suited for team collaboration and like the larger projects. Both I think are really great when I'm looking for last minute freelancers. So it's useful when you want to have access to on-demand talent. I can post a job in the morning and someone can start working pretty instantly, which is handy for urgent tasks. When I look back at using marketplace platforms for hiring expertise, it's been really instrumental to my business because I can have freelancers for my marketing department, paid ads, web development, social media, all without outlaying thousands of pounds a month. Rather, I'm paying for their services on a project or hourly basis because as a small business, if you're working for yourself, you can't always predict how many hours of work someone will need to do, as things can change quite quickly. The last app in this video is G Suite. G Suite rebranded to Workspace, but a lot of users still call it G Suite, including myself. And it's a cloud-based suite of productivity tools created by Google and designed for businesses of all sizes. For me, G Suite is a no-brainer because it's a super cost-effective solution. It's got tiered pricing plans and loads of apps that communicate with each other. The main ones I use in my personal and also my business life are Calendar, Gmail, G Drive, Gmeet, Docs, and Sheets. Now, all of these apps help me to streamline my workflows and increase productivity. When I had my language learning company, as we were all a remote team and working in different time zones, I didn't need to go back and forth on email or chat as we could collaborate on documents really easily. Plus, you can see who's online and working on it at the same time. So, first thing in the morning, I'll open my desktop calendar and my emails, and I'll have the weekly agenda on view. I'll then color code the events depending on whether it's a personal activity or a business activity so that I can visualize what activity I'm focusing on in that particular time slot. The reason I do that is because I like to group up my personal stuff and then do the same for business. Otherwise, for me, chopping and changing takes up a lot more headspace and it affects my productivity. I've got 4 income streams right now, and for me to be able to manage everything efficiently, it's got to start with diary management. I also have my regular reminders scheduled into the calendar as recurring tasks, and I can see these highlighted in yellow. So these are the things that I do on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis, such as schedule time to read my unopened newsletters, prep and schedule social media posts, or my to-do list every Friday for the following week. Some recurring tasks also act like a mini checklist. For example, on the first day of every month, I allocate around 30 minutes to focus on my accounts, which is a breakdown of all the metrics that I measure, such as profit and loss, expenses, how much I added to my savings accounts, and also a breakdown of my property rental income and my mortgage payments. With emails, I used to use Mac, but I prefer the design and simplicity of Gmail. I've got 4 different email addresses for my personal and business life, as it helps to keep things in order. I use Google's company email address option, which means that if you want to have your own domain name, you can create your own @email address in a few simple steps, rather than managing it with your domain host, because I find that a little bit more troublesome. You do need to upgrade to their Workspace plan to do this. I pay around £8 a month, and I think that's money really well spent. When I had a larger team, I also created work emails and calendars for them, which meant that I had a great overview for my internal admin. If we have a look at Google Sheets next, now this is another tab that I always have open, and that's my master finances sheet. This gives me a real-time snapshot of all the financial metrics that I measure. This is the ultimate document that I use that tracks my company. So that's P&L, gross and net profit margins, operation expenses, average invoice value, conversion rate, etc. I feed some of the financial data from my Xero into this master spreadsheet because even though there's an overlap and repetition of some information, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because one, I'm repeating my numbers, which means I'm on top of things and I know them inside out. So that's really handy for you if finances aren't your strong point. And 2, I prefer to see laid out in a spreadsheet format. Now, I know this video focuses on business, but I also use G-Sheets for my personal finances because, as anyone in business will tell you, the two are really closely linked and one affects the other. For example, if you've only just set up your company, your personal and business finances will be merging with each other, at least until you set up a separate business bank account or incorporate and have a limited company. Plus, some expenses such as your phone and travel that were previously personal could now be classified as a company expense. So initially, at least, it's a good idea to have both sets of finances together as they have an impact on each other. My personal spreadsheet tracks my monthly income from all the income streams, my fixed and variable expenses, direct debits, cash flow, my different savings accounts, and also my property portfolio breakdown. I've got tabs and formulas on things like interest rates, stress testing, my financial freedom and retirement targets, and also, more importantly, my net worth. This is the key document for me so that I can always keep a constant track of what I've got right down to the penny. The last thing I want to cover is G Drive. Now, I mainly use Dropbox for storing all my files, which is £10 a month. But I also use G Drive as my other cloud backup, which is priced lower from £1.59 a month upwards, depending on the level of storage. I also use an external hard drive. Now, some might think it's a bit extra, but I've been in situations before where my admin team has accidentally deleted G Suite files for work, and Google support is pretty non-existent. So I've also backed up weekly on Dropbox and the hard drive as insurance. Dropbox does have a version history, which comes in handy. And you don't have to have 2 backups, but if you have a business with sensitive and important files like financial documents and customer information, you need to be super careful about how you store and process that data. And being over the top personally gives me that peace of mind. This is my second video on my channel. I'm posting every week about small business, finances, and productivity. So please hit subscribe if you're interested in these topics and comment below if there's anything you'd like me to cover.